something sorted. Let me just bring you up. Excuse me a second. If you are, if this is actually live, I do apologise. I've been in some real technical difficulties here. Right, that's done. Right, hello all. We have 7 people watching ish. Fantastic. Well, that's double the amount I had last time. Welcome to another live stream. It's been, I think, about 6 or 7 weeks since I actually last did a live stream. Oh, that's right. That's quite interesting. Could you let me know? Because I'm looking at my camera right now, and I'm looking at this screen. Can you confirm that the image you are looking at on your screen isn't a mirror image, so you can read Haynes and Mini? It's not back to front. Because I think what my camera is doing, for some reason, is flipping the image. I've noticed in a couple of videos where I've actually done edits where whatever shot I've taken, it's flipped it, so everything's back to front. It's not a mirror. Brilliant. Thank you very much for telling me that. I just wanted to confirm that because for some reason my phone keeps doing this flip-flopping thing with the mirror image. A bit of a pain actually, because when I'm editing videos, every single shot I've taken, I'm literally clicking on the same thing to reverse what's happened. Anyway, welcome to another Friday live stream. It has been about I think 6 weeks since I last did this for definite. As I say, it's not something I wanted to do quite regularly. It depends on time permitting, and today I've set the time to do this because I quite frankly need to. Hello all, and how are you? For those of you who are new to the channel, I am Andrew. This is usually Fixing and Tinkering, the channel that focuses on the nitty-gritty stuff of modern classic car ownership. At the moment it's modern classic car ownership, looking at both my vehicles really. Nothing more than that at the moment. I will hopefully go classic at some point, but as I say, funds pending and all that. Let's have a look. We have 11 people. Mr. Ben, good evening, sir. Hello to you, sir. How are you? I am absolutely fine. I hope you are doing well. As always, you are one of my most popular followers from the start. And I've just seen your comment. Yes, I have left a note on that gentleman's windscreen, the Rover 420 GSI owner. I think he's an older chap. Since pretty much Matt of Furious Driving has got one. I know that Rover the Paul the Rover man. I was going to say Rover the Pool man. That was a dreadful spin on words there. Oh God, I can't remember the channel's name now. He's got a yard full of Rovers. He's got one now, and it looks pretty good. The one that I've seen is in red. I can't remember what colour it was. Got a bit of lack appeal in places, but it's a runner. It's a daily driver. It's actually sitting on a terrace street, and yeah, I've put a note on the windscreen. I haven't had a reply. Put my mobile number because it's an older guy, so he might emailing and phoning. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. I don't necessarily have the funds to buy one, but I think this is one of those cars where if it comes around, I think you have to grab it. I want an R8, and that's the top of the tree as far as R8s are concerned. So we'll see how it goes. Mad Top, hello to you, sir. How are you doing, sir? Again, one of my top followers pretty much since the start. Adam, how are you, sir? Again, another long-term subscriber, mainly on the Ford side of things, but you've watched both of my videos like quite a few people, so obviously my videos are good on both sides, and I'll try and give a good balance, pretty much. Yeah, I'm glad that it's the correct orientation on my phone, which is why it's not deliberate. I've actually set this up because I wasn't entirely sure last time whether it flipped the image. For some reason, I can't access the actual recording of the last live stream. For some reason, when the live stream ended, it's supposed to automatically upload to YouTube, and I believe it did because quite a few of you have watched it. But I can't get access to it for some reason. There seems to be an issue with me getting access to one of my videos, which is ridiculous. I can see everything else. I can access all my other videos, but for that one, I'm not sure why. So I wasn't quite sure whether we did the flip side, so hence why I've got these two here. But ironically, these are two of my oldest books. I've had these ages, and I just love the Haynes Cutaways, which is what that book is. But anyway, and yeah, I wanted a Mini as my first car. It didn't really turn out that way. I don't think I'd have one now because of how expensive they actually are for what you're getting. Good evening, Martin. How are you, sir? Lovely to hear from you. I will be seeing you at the Pride of Longbridge very soon, and we need a good natter and catch up. 100%. Things are going to be done potentially in terms of maybe a swap or driving each other's car, because I've had a few little instances where I feel that I've only got my car to go on in terms of how the CVT should feel, and there's not much information out there as to how they should drive. Most of my info comes from the Rover, the MGF TF Step Speed Facebook group. That's where I've got 90% of my info before I actually bought the 45. Without that info, I don't think I'd have had enough confidence to buy one, because otherwise people say they're absolutely rubbish. That would have put me off. But it's all about awareness and information, and I think there was a few people that told me to go for it, and I have. And yeah, it's a bit jerky at low RPMs, but I'll talk to you at the Pride of Longbridge about that, and we'll have to compare notes. Project Nigel, thank you, Mad Top. Do you know what? I don't know why I forgot that, because I actually am a subscriber to his channel, but since I'm actually making more and more videos, it might slow down after the Pride of Longbridge. It might become a bit more sane. I'm not sure how it's going to look going forwards, but I have kind of got a structure with what things I do every week, so I'll kind of go with that. So yeah, I have very little time to watch other YouTubers these days. The Late Break Show has been pretty good recently. If you watch that show, there have been some superb barn finds. I think Johnny did a video on a Ford Cortina that just come out of a garage lockup. Strangely enough, and I will tell you this story now, because I as I say, most of you who watch the channel will know that I made a comment in my NEC video saying that I now have a lockup garage, which I do. I've just obtained one, and there'll be a video going out tomorrow of me just starting to set up. But basically, the owner of that garage bought a load of garages, not where I am in my block. I think he's got a block of garages down Redditch in Worcestershire, for those who know where it is. And he bought them on auction. I don't know where in Redditch. That's all the info that I have, but I don't really want to give anything more detail because of what car is down there. But basically, there was a block of garages in Redditch that he bought at auction, and obviously, when you buy garages at auction, you're not allowed to look in them. And he took a gamble. I think it was 100 grand for about 8 garages, something like that. So it was a bit of a long shot, and all the garages were full of crap. Had to get a skip out and pay a fortune to get all this stuff basically taken away. And for some reason, he did all 7 garages, and then the 8th one, the last one he left, his mate started to clear it out, and his mate called him on the phone. He said, "There's a car in here." He was like, "Oh no, what is it now?" Because obviously you just assume it's a pile of old shite, not worth much, and you're gonna have to get a recovery, and then it's like it's more money that they're spending on getting rid of crap. Apparently the guy who rented that garage stopped paying rent years ago, and then the previous landlord was trying to chase him up, but apparently he disappeared. couldn't get in contact with him. But the car in the garage is a Ford Escort RS Cosworth with all the toys. It's literally like that. The garage was a little bit wet and damp, but overall there was a little bit of rust, as you can imagine, because of the damp and the moisture, but actually it was pretty much intact in most places. Chassis rails underneath, that sort of thing. Just the wheel arches and the wings are gone a bit scabby. The outer panels. It has everything. Keyless entry. Remember that being an option, or I think it was standard on the RS Cosworth Escorts. This is a 93 plate, I believe. I think that's what he said. So it is in a garage, and he doesn't, obviously he can't touch it. He's just been told to take photos as it stands, so that the people dealing with it know that he's not stealing any stuff, that sort of thing, and nicking stuff. They've managed to trace the owner via the DVOA. I don't know how the old landlord didn't manage to do that, but they've managed to contact him. So he's alive. So he was like, boom, because he thought he actually landed on a car there, but no response. And there hasn't been any response for the last 6 months. And obviously my landlord's trying to chase him up for rent as well, as much as anything else. I mean, he's not too bothered about that. To be honest, he's more concerned that if he could get ownership of that thing, because the previous owner is not being contactable. So he's not sure where legally he can actually go to probably getting the car in his name, because that's what he wants. He's not bothered about the rent, because he's a bit of a Ford person himself, so he knows the value of what I'm putting in the garage. So you know, I'm pleased that I've got somebody who actually understands what I'm doing, and the garage is mine. I can do what I see fit. And he says that if I want to work on the car in the garage, don't feel as if you need to, you know, well, obviously try and keep the noise down to a reasonable level, which I always do. But the neighbours are all good, and there's quite a few classic cars in the block I'm in, so I'm not alone, put it that way. So yeah, he's in this position where he doesn't own the car, but he's trying to get a custody of ownership, because the owner, who is still alive, hasn't been contactable. We reckon the theory is that this guy, like many people who bought these fast Fords in the 80s, 90s, they were, you know, business people at the top end, you know, quite rich, and basically he might have gone bankrupt. And I've seen this pattern before, where they go bankrupt and they disappear, but they hide some of the assets. So they go bankrupt personally, but they hide the car, because in them days it was easy to hide such things. So he's probably hid the car, and that's where it stood for 20-25 years. Fascinating. And I might actually, well, I've told him, look, you should contact Johnny Smith, even though you're not legally the owner. I think you should contact him, because that is pure barn find territory. And it's possible I might see the car. I've asked him, if it goes further down the line, can I do some filming? Can we drag it out? Because if I can get there before Johnny Smith, I'll do it first, and then he can have the best bits after. So that might be coming forward for the Ford subscribers. So yeah. Mr. Ben, I'm okay, thanks, Andrew. The 420 GSA would be a very interesting addition. I've seen Matt's and Paul's cars, both are lovely. Yes. Touch wood on that. So at the end of the day, I've put the feelers out. I would have regretted it even though arguably I've got funds being tied up in the Mark 1 for a respray on the passenger side in 2 months' time. I don't necessarily have the funds, but I do if I go into my savings. And I would do for that car, on the basis of owning it, improving it, probably having about 6 months of it, enjoying it as a car, taking it to some shows, and then moving it on. That's what a third car would be to me, because I think the 45's a keeper. It's too much of a keeper. And I can't really go beyond a third or fourth car. That's really pushing it on my income. Trust me, I don't have a massive income, so I have to be very careful of that. Adam, good, thanks. I'm re-watching Car Throttle doing the SC 500 road trip in the Citroen Saxo video Golf. Mark 1 Focus Millennium Edition. I actually watched that. I was absolutely fascinated because there was a Focus Mark 1 on a major car YouTube channel. And you know what, I don't know if about you, Adam, but I've followed that channel so much over the last 10 years. And I loved the stuff where they did a series between the two of them, and they were just mucking around, actually demonstrating the sort of common misconceptions of car enthusiasts and what basically people think of non-car people. It was car person versus non-car person. I just love that. I think it's so spot on, it's untrue. And some of the videos they did was wonderful, really great. And Alex Kirsten now has his own YouTube channel. I don't know how many subscribers, but I think the last time I looked it was like 430,000 people. And I'm one of them, because the fact is, I think he made Car Throttle what it is. I really do. Mr. Ben, that Escort Cosworth must be worth what he paid for the garages. I think more than that. My argument is, and I said this at the NEC, I don't think any piece of metal is worth that much, but there are people out there that would pay way more than 100 grand for that, as it is, as a barn find, because these things, they're coming out the woodwork left, right and centre, but there's going to be a point in the next 5-10 years where most of the barn finds have been discovered, because people are aware about barn finds. I think they're aware about possibly how valuable some of these cars are, and how valuable it would be to either restore one or keep it as it is, as a reminder of what they can be like if they, don't know, deteriorate, corrode. I mean, the NEC is a great example of some cars that have been left as they were found. Sometimes that's a nice idea just to leave them. There's plenty of nice examples around, unless somebody's got the money to actually restore one completely. I mean, I don't know, the Austin Metro, that was half dipped, if you saw that, so they left one side painted and the other side was acid dipped. That would take an awful lot of money to restore, because the amount of holes in it, it probably cost you 20-25 grand, and it's not worth that. Might be worth it to somebody though. Martin, my sister liked the dressing gown. Seems it had some sort of Sherlock Holmes appeal. Oh, this. I'll tell you where this came from. Let me get this out. A few people have commented on that, Martin. It is very much so. It's a very thick one. It is. Oh, right. This is the brand name. I'm just going to show it to the camera. Can you see that? Bound of London. And that is the brand you go for. I think it was about. I'm not. This was quite expensive. And it is literally like wearing, it's very heavy, it's very heavy. It's not a cheap dressing gown at all. It was about £80, but I paid that for that about 5 years ago. But there's all sorts of really wacky, nice ones. But agreed, it does remind me of Sherlock Holmes actually in some respects. Definitely. I had a coat that actually was in, I think Benedict Cumberbatch, I think he specified a really, really long coat, and I actually had one similar to that actually, because I liked a little bit of cosplay here and there years ago, and I don't have it no more, but it's very, very similar, the same sort of broidered cotton pattern with the collar and the sort of split hem on the legs, and for somebody who's quite tall and thin, that actually quite suits me actually. Adam, Martin, quality, yeah, trust me, quality. So yeah, if your sister likes one, that's where you go, and I would get another one. Dressing gown talk on a car channel, come on. I am open for talking for a lot of things. I can get really political though, so yeah, I'll try not to be too left wing, because I am a bit more left wing. You know, Jeremy Corbyn, I'd probably stop in and I'd probably get his signature. Quite an underestimated person, and he would have been a good Prime Minister. Sorry if you disagree with me there. Adam, I know a family friend that had an Escort Cosworth a while ago and was offered 60 grand for it and sold it. Mad some prices these fast Fords go for. I don't blame him for selling it if he got offered that. Yeah, 100%. The price is, it's worth what somebody's willing to pay. And what I've seen at the NEC is like Ford had literally half a hall to themselves. All these top Ford clubs, which is this is why I want to fill the gap a little bit with the Mark 1 scene, because there's so many common, ordinary Mark 1s still left on the roads for people to grab one now and look after it. Grab one, grab a lock-up garage like I'm doing, keep it away, repair it bit by bit like I'm doing with my, well, like I have done with mine. Obviously you've got a daily driver, something to commute into and from work, but that's the project. I would really recommend, if you're into Fords, you grab a Mark 1, whatever. It doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be an ST 170, it can be an ordinary Mark 1 Focus, and you put your time and money into it. I'll tell you, it'll be worth its weight in gold. Look at those Fords there. I mean, that Ford Fiesta Mark 3 that was in the auction, 6.5 grand. I'm not kidding you. And that's the top. I think a Focus would probably sell for more. The truth is, if you think about it, how Escorts and Fiestas, unmolested, common, everyday examples like your Popular Pluses, whatever they are, whether they're gears as well, it doesn't matter. If it's not a fast Ford, but it has a Fiesta and Escort badge from the 90s, it's at least 5 or 6 grand. 4, 5, 6 grand. But the Focus Mark 1 is a better car than they were. Far better. So you imagine what that's going to be worth in about 10 years' time. There are other factors at play, I gather, because fuel availability is going to be a problem in 5 to 10 years, I reckon. Well, probably 10 years, not 5. We don't know how that's going to work out. I mean, quite a few well-known motoring journalists have depicted the image that in 15 years we are all going to have to go and buy our fuel from specialist places because there's no fuel stations. Literally, they've all converted from pumps to EV charging points, because the people that use petrol cars are classic car enthusiasts and modern classic car enthusiasts. They're the only people that use it. But because of how big the hobby is, I suspect there's still going to be a resource base in order to buy petrol. So I don't know. Instead of loads of petrol stations all around the place, there will be EV charging places, and us car guys with petrol diesel cars, we're going to have to go to one big plant, probably, let's say, one in every city. Let's say in Birmingham, the size of Birmingham, or Manchester or Liverpool, there'll be 1 or 2 places that you can go and get fuel. So pretty much that'll be quite eventful, actually, on a Saturday, and you see a queue of people lining for fuel, and everybody's saying, "Oh, what car you've got then?" You know, that this is where it could get interesting with owning an old petrol car, because it will distinguish you from everyone else. And if you see somebody going for some fuel, you might think, "Oh, so what car have you got then?" Because obviously you've got an older car. DB Sparks, hello buddy, another subscriber who has been replying a lot on the videos. How are you, sir? I am not too bad. I'm so sorry, Dave. Do you know what? I've confused you with somebody else, and I know it's you, Dave. Do you know what? I said DB Sparks, and I thought, yeah, I've confused you again, Dave, with somebody else. I thought you were another YouTuber, but no, you are. Oh, goodness me. I'm not too bad. Not since I last spoke to you anyway. Things have been a bit busy, but not too bad. And why on earth have I read DB Sparks and not realised who you are? I'm so sorry. This has been such a long day. Mr. Ben, you're going to get a nice surprise tomorrow, Dave. Spoilers. Mr. Ben, 60,000 sounds a bargain for that to be. Yeah, I think it would be. It depends what condition it's in. He hasn't shown me any photos as of yet, but at the moment it looks at least upwards of that compared to others. Depends what toys it's got, but if it's got keyless entry, was that, as I say, was that standard? or was that an option even on the RSs? Because for 93, that's cutting edge. You know, that's Mercedes S-Class territory. Some of the toys on a 90s Mercedes S-Class, modern cars today have only just started to get. That's how far that the S-Class is above everybody else. It's 20 years ahead. Adam, yeah, I can remember watching the car throttle car versus non-car people. Hilarious. It's utterly hilarious. If any of you have not watched it, go to the Car Throttle YouTube channel and just type car people versus non-car people, and you will absolutely relate to every episode they have done. It's utterly true. Especially where the one where they're literally sitting there and every 5 seconds the doorbell's going, got car parts delivery, and there's another car parts delivery, and then the bell goes and there's another car parts delivery. That's what it's like at the front door for me, because people know, because it's a house where we've got separate flats, and people know that I'm into cars and I have a lot of car parts delivered. And there's a few people who say, look, if you could if you could answer the door every time it rings and just send for me. If I'm here, I'll take your parcels in, and it works that way for everybody. But I tend to take the bulk of it. So I tend to give a couple of people a drink to make up for it. I don't know how I get away with that if I basically, because I'm a single person, I'd live on my own. I don't know how I get away with that. I would have to ask my mum and dad to take the parcels in, and then I'd go and collect the parcels on mum and dad. Difficult one that, if you're even if if you've got a partner and you're both at work during the day, who's gonna pick it up? Unless you do the common thing now where you ask the courier to put it in the recycling bin or the rubbish bin. That's a good one, that is, by the way. Although it's not such a good one now I've told you it, because it's now going to be common knowledge through the internet. Mad Top, 60,000 is cheap, especially seeing how much a Sierra Cosy made at auction not long ago. Over £500,000. Oh, there was some up for sale. I mean, obviously some of them were fake, because that's what they would have cost brand new. I mean, the prices are just astronomical. I think 200, 300,000 was, I think one did go in the auctions. The only thing I didn't do at the NECN, this was because one, I was losing memory, I was losing battery life, and I wanted to get round to all the Ford stands, is I didn't go into the I didn't actually go into the auctions to have a closer look at the cars. But they did have a number of Fords there while they were putting the hammer down. There was one that went for about 150, 200,000 pounds, something like that. It was at the lower end, it needed some work, but I think it was a Sierra car's worth. I don't know, for such a rare car, they appear in the auctions quite a lot. I don't know why that is. It's almost like the select club of people, and I call them a club because they're not a club, but they're a group of people who are wealthy enough, are lucky enough to have the income in order to spend £200,000 on one of these brilliant cars. Dream cars for most of us. They're not a dream car to me for some reason. I like them, but I don't get bowled over by Cosworths. They weren't a particularly good car back in the day to own because of the threat of theft, for a start. Yeah, it kind of didn't work as a car practically unless you could afford the insurance premiums. And also I think that's what killed off a lot of these cars in the early 90s. Insurance premiums went straight through the roof, and even people that could afford to own them couldn't justify the premiums. They were so high, it basically killed that off. Might be a reason why that Escort is in my landlord's garage at the moment. Could be, apart from going bankrupt, but I do think it's the second one because the guy hasn't contacted my landlord. Ray, greetings from was going to say Northern Ireland. Why? I don't know why I said that. Greetings from Ireland. Really like the channel. Cheers. Thanks, Ray. Welcome to the channel. What are you into, Fords or Rovers? That's the first question I asked, because this is, I didn't aim for it to go this way, but this channel is Fords and Rovers because that's my interest. I don't have a massive interest outside of them. I have some interest in marquees that you've seen at the NEC show. If you've watched those videos, like Saab, I would like a Saab 9.3, especially the one that looks like Dame Edna at the front. They look characterful. I'm not sure about the back end of them though. They look a bit misbalanced, with the sort of the wheels sort of slushy sort of tight window at the back. But I'd have a Saab, because I think they're interesting. They're different, and they have a niche of their own now, which I'm really pleased to see in the classic car sense. Mad Top, I saw that in the early 90s with fast forwards. One day they were making stupid money and the next you could not give them away. That's precisely what the problem was, because people just couldn't afford the insurance. So you were stuck with a car that you just couldn't sell. And it was like anything fashionable, anything high end, you just want the latest thing. So a lot of people either had enough money to just go and buy the latest thing and forget about the fast forward and chuck it in a barn, and that's where we're getting all these barn finds from in the last 10-15 years. Or realistically, they wouldn't be able to afford anything else at all without shifting it on. I'm not quite sure how you get around that, but the insurance pretty much killed them off. Practically, as a car, fantastic, but like anything desirable, it's a balancing act. Unfortunately, you can't have anything nice these days, which is why security and why I'm very conscious of not giving away my address. Naturally, if people want to find out where I live, I can't stop them, but it is the way of the world. But at least people won't know where my garage is. That's the important thing. Mad Top, in the auction that was, yeah, you wouldn't be able to shift them, and they were worth, by the late 90s, they were worth nothing, very little at all, because they've been usurped by the next generation of classic fast cars, whether that be Fords, not necessarily Fords. I think Subaru, Mitsubishi had really pushed on. JDM cars were hot during that period. There were so many other marquees making high-end, attractive cars to people who could afford them, the same people that were buying these Cosworths in the 80s, 90s. So they weren't worth a great deal. My uncle had one. I very vaguely remember sitting in the back of it on the leather seats. It was a fast car, and he was a very fast sort of driver. He was a sort of guy who would basically keep no hand on the steering wheel most of the time. He'd have one fag, holding a fag with his arm on the ledge of the window, and his other arm on the gear lever, and barely on the steering wheel most of the time. The only time he touched the steering wheel was to turn around the corner, or if the torque steer was too much. And on his car, he had bad torque steer, so he was having to grab the wheel sometimes, and his driving wasn't smooth, put it that way. But it was a Cosworth, and he scrapped the car in 2003 because of a gearbox problem. They were worth nothing. He shot himself. He has actually recently shot himself because of that. And I remind him every time, shouldn't have done that. And how many people have got rid of their cars because of that, and they shoot themselves in the foot. It's just one of those things. Adam, it's every enthusiast's dream to own 1 million cars, but the pesky little thing called money gets in the way. It's also space as well. I'm finding space difficult, really difficult. I mean, people say I've got a nice driveway with space. I haven't. Strange enough, I shouldn't park more than one car on the driveway, but because my landlord is quite lenient and my housemates are quite accepting of what I do, and quite frankly, no one cares a damn about their cars these days, and whether it's parked on a road where, well, if I park it on that road tonight, I can guarantee by the morning a wing mirror would have come off. Really, honestly, it's that bad on this road. People drive 40 miles. It's a 20-mile-an-hour road outside, and people drive along it on 40, 50s. We've got a house 2 doors down from us, owned by a very rich Asian family who have Audi R8s. They got a McLaren P, or can't remember which one it was actually now, a Lamborghini Murcielago, a Lamborghini Aventador, which I was hearing the other day because for some reason they kept on trying to blip the throttle every 5 minutes. I don't know why, maybe to annoy people, because they're very annoying people, and quite frankly it's a shame because the cars are great, it's just the people that drive them are a bit annoying, and they literally think they own the street. That Lamborghini passed the house about an hour ago doing 70, believe it or not, and it's like they can't be touched. Maybe they know somebody in the police, but nobody seems to do anything about them. So yeah, it's not a nice road. So I'm looking with space where I am, but that will change because I've got the garage now. So not just money, space, and that's a problem that limits a lot of people nowadays. Storage is a problem. It's taken me such a long time to find storage, and lo and behold, I find one which is literally 5 minutes away from my house. I don't even have to drive there. I've actually been taking stuff down to the garage recently with my backpack and a couple of bags, just a bit at a time. I didn't even have to drive the car because of how close it was. And it's at the point where I was thinking this could get pretty logistically tricky when it comes to a show, because if I'm taking the Focus out to a show and it's at a lock-up garage which is like 30 minutes away, my last garage was half an hour away, because it was a nice garage. It was a bigger garage than the one I've got, an extra long one. It's like the standard garage that I've got is 8 foot by 17, but this one was 8 foot by 20, so you had a bit of extra space at the back for like tooling and crap. But it was half an hour drive away, and I'm thinking if I get a garage roughly in that sort of same distance, I'm going to have to drive the Rover to get to the Focus, and then get the Focus out, and then drive it to the show. But I've got a bank that I have an extra long garage, because unfortunately the Rover 45 will not fit in a standard garage, so it would have to be an extra long one, and they're hard to find. I got lucky with my last one, but this garage I've got, the Rover won't fit in it, but that doesn't matter. It's 5 minutes down the road. I can literally walk down to it, and if I'm going to a show, then I can leave the Focus in the garage until the day, and then just walk down and drive it off, and then drive it back and walk back up, but if it was more than a drive away, that would be a problem, because then I'd have an issue where I'm going to have to park the Rover outside the garage, and depending on where it is, some landlords are a bit funny about you parking outside your own rented garage. Some of them will say, well, give me more money, and then you can rent the parking space outside of it, and I've had that before too. It's nasty. Dave, DB Sparks. Someone near me drives a Saab Turbo as a daily driver and a Rover that's parked up covered in branches and moss. Lovely. That's pretty much what you get, actually, to be fair. Rovers are not really that cared for. People, there's no value in them, Dave. That's the problem, and that's what I'm seeing with Rover 45 ownership. Is even the best ones, the best ones are the Rover 45 V6s. There's less than 50 of them, and really honestly, a mint condition one, and I saw one recently that's had thousands spent on it, like $2,500. That's nothing. If that was a Ford, it'd be 7.5, literally. So I'm not surprised he spends money on probably the Saab works better, arguably. And arguably, with the Rover covered in branches and moss, it's not an attractive proposition to steal, because they are easy to steal. I'm pretty certain that you could steal my 45 with a shed key in that ignition. It's literally a flip key. You got the old bendy key. I mean, obviously, Ford and everybody else have gone to a fob with a key. I mean, this does come off, the blade does come off, but Rover in 2005, before they went into administration, was still using the old technique of a separate fob and a blooming bendy key. I swear, you get a shed key to start that. Oh, dearie me, excuse me. Mad Top, I'm sure I saw that the car tax is going up from tomorrow. I don't know how much. I didn't look at that. Okay, you've reminded me I need to have a look at that, because I mean, I've paid my road tax. I pay it on a direct debit for the Focus as it is. So I'm going to have a look at that, because that's going to go up for both the Rover and the Focus. The Rover and the Focus, because they're both automatics, they are in like band J for the Focus and band K for the Rover. They're like 29, 30, 31 pounds a month. It's almost £1 a day in road tax. That car, I have to give the government £1 for just it sitting there, even if I choose not to use it. Excuse me, I'm attack of hay fever here. Oh dear me. Right, excuse me. Mr. Ben, having a garage that close is brilliant. My Focus is in a garage 7 miles away. Oh, I feel pain, sir. I think my old garage was 7 miles away, so about half an hour. That sounds about right to me. It's the fuel, getting to and from as well. It's not attractive if I want to work on the car. Ideally, because it's so close, I don't want to work on the car in the garage unless it's small jobs. I can actually just bring it here. I just bring it here. It's 5 minutes away. So I feel your pain with that one. Ideally, you just want a garage really close, but it's the look of the draw. I actually didn't realise the garage that I've got was where it was. When I saw the advert, I literally took the advert up about an hour after the landlord put it up. I saw it and thought, no way, that's where it is. I knew how close it was. I literally rang him straight away. Look, can I have your garage? Is it dry? Yeah, I've just had the roof done on it. No brainer. When can I meet you? So it's a tricky one, that. But I literally, when I went there, I had to look it up on Google Maps, because I knew what road it was, but I didn't know where the block exactly was, because I know the local area quite well, but they were hidden, and I know the area quite well. That gives me good security conscious. That gives me like some good awareness of security. I may put a Defender in, but from what I've been told by several people in the security industry, and I know I work with 2 people who've worked in that industry, I asked them for advice, and they said, based on what you're putting in there, as long as you're not putting any expensive tools in there. And I said, no, just the car, which is the precious thing, which naturally I will immobilise in my own way. Obviously I can't say, because it's a security reason, but I'm pretty sure most of you would immobilise a car in a garage, just to be on the safe side. Especially you, Mr. Ben. If it's 7 miles away, I'd be immobilising the car. Whether it's taken the battery off, that's the obvious one. I mean, somebody can come with a battery, but the idea is that you can do a couple of things to it, of which I cannot say, obviously, but I could give advice as to what you might want to do to prevent theft. But anyway, his advice was, don't bother with a garage Defender. He's seen many instances, because he worked in like garage rental lockup services for quite a while, and he actually provided advice to landlords about security. And he says, as long as it's an up and over garage door, they're all relatively the same sort of difficulty to get in, which is, they can be pretty easy to get into if somebody wants to get into them. So basically, they will just bend the corner. Literally, they'll just see the Defender and think, there's a Defender, so there must be something valuable in that garage, and they'll just bend the corner. They'll bend the corner, creep in, and they'll have a look what's in there. And if there's anything valuable in there, they've staked it out, they'll know what's in there then. And then you're on a losing battle then if there's anything expensive in there. And if there's any tools, then they will take them, because there's enough space for them to slip tools out through the corner that they've just bent up. So it's not a good idea. His advice was, don't get a garage defender. Actually have nothing, because then it doesn't show that there's anything valuable in it. I think when people, his advice was on the principle of people put all these locks on the garage doors and a defender, then a bloody camera, and all this stuff just attracts attention. It just screams of there's something nice in here. It's a double-edged sword. But I have got the freedom by my landlord to do what the hell I please. I will be covering that in the video that's coming out tomorrow. Right, sorry, I've lost it a little bit, guys. I'm so sorry about this. I've got a lot of views and sorry, I've lost this. Ray, I have a solid Mark II Focus with a bad clutch. Are they worth saving from the scrapyard? Yes, of course they are. Mark II Focuses have held their value very well compared to Mark I's. In fact, I'd say Mark 1s are cheaper than Mark 2s, which is crazy, considering that they're now getting a little bit more desirable, a little bit more retro. I don't think the early Mark 2s are particularly nice to look at aesthetically, but underneath, you know, they have the basis of Mark 1. They took the Mark 1 platform, made it a bit wider, a bit longer on the wheelbase, and took all the essential bits and gubbings, the engine, gearboxes, quite a bit of the running gear, but then completely new interior, new electrical system, yeah, some new infrastructure here and there, but they made essentially a really nice car. The late Mark IIs are fine. They're very attractive, I think, and I would certainly look at one. So yes, I think they are worth saving, because I think what's going to happen is, I do think the popularity of Mark 1s is going to keep increasing, and Mark 2s may become the unpopular one, the one that people don't prefer. And I do prefer Mark 1s to Mark 2s, and if it's like, if that attitude is the generic attitude, then basically Mark 2s will fade a little bit more than Mark 1s. There'll be less left. So Ray, go for it. And a lot of my videos that I do now are quite relevant to Mark 2s, especially engine stuff. It's very relevant. There's not a gaping difference between the cars. There is, but there isn't. I might cover that a little bit more in detail. And now I know I've got a Mark II person watching my videos, then I could explore that further for you. But with a bad clutch, don't worry about a bad. The clutches are a £400 job if you pay for it to be done. It's a relatively simple job. Make sure they get a LUK clutch. That's the clutch you go for. It's the best one on the market, aftermarket, and I've never heard any failure problems. And a lot of Mark 1 and Mark 2 owners have changed to those clutches when the originals are worn out. Andy, hello Andy, how are you, sir? My namesake. I've got an 87 Escort XR3 iCab in the garage. Worth now. Sorry, what is it worth now? I couldn't say. But it's worth it. It depends what condition it's in. So so it's injected. It's a cabriolet. Ooh, I think the cabriolet is a little bit more cheaper because of the cabriolet itself. People want a hatch, a hard top. But I couldn't say. I don't know enough about Escort values to be giving you a picture on that one. I don't want to set your sights too high or too low on that one, but they are popular because it's an Escort, an 80s Escort that survives, regardless of what body type it is. That's more than anything. As I say, it depends what condition it's in. Nice to have you watching the channel, Andy. Really, honestly, I'm glad I've attracted quite a few new people. Mr. Ben, think car taxis going up about 10%. That'd be another. What would it be for me? 10% of £2, so another £2.90 a month. So that will be another 29p extra a day on top of what I'm paying. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. That was just some rough maths, but if they actually did a good job on the roads, then I wouldn't mind. But seriously, I've said this before, our cars are tested to make sure that they are roadworthy for the roads. What about the roads being roadworthy for the cars? Man, I don't know what it's like in other areas, particularly around Europe as well. But in Birmingham, which is the UK's second city, it's dreadful, absolutely dreadful. I spend more time avoiding potholes than avoiding other cars. I seriously, I spoke to a few people at the NEC about driving trips in France, and do you know something? France is beautiful. I don't know why I've never done it. I would be absolutely up for having a Mark One, a Mark One drive with other owners in their Mark Ones, like a club drive, going on the ferry to France and driving around France and having a road trip, because I think in very soon it could be very difficult. I know they're trying to ban a lot of cars from the major cities now, Paris and that sort of thing, but I think in the outskirts of France where the beauty spots are, I mean, I've been told that the roads are like, I don't know, 20 mile, 30, 40 miles in length, a straight road, and there's nobody. There's not a sausage to be seen, no other cars, no nothing. You could stop in the middle of the road for about 5 solid minutes and nobody'd be passing you. It's just another thing. So I want to do that before it becomes impossible to do such things, because in Britain it's 20 miles an hour. It feels like it. Adam, I found my Mark 1 Focus key feels better quality than my 2004 Fiesta key. Oh, are they the flip out ones? Because the flip out ones, I find that the key blooming wobbles all the time. They do on Peugeot flip out keys. Oh my goodness me, my ex had a Peugeot 207, and 3 times I repaired that key blade and it kept on coming out. They're a joke. Getting those return springs in are really difficult, and you have to have that key to remove the actual petrol filler cap. It's why the key lock ones, and the filler cap comes off and stays attached to the key. So you have to figure out, you've got to put the key down with the cap on top of your car. Blimmin' French. Both remote keys found the casing cracks easy on the Fiesta than the Focus key, which still has the full badge. Oh, do you mean what's missing there? That, yeah, I've never had the badge on mine. Apparently they fall off really easy. I've never had the badge on mine. If anybody knows a direction where I can get an actual badge for there, whether it be a sticker to go there, please send me a link on eBay or whatever, because I've never had my sticker on mine. Seems to be a thing. Mark 4 Fiestas, the steering wheel loses its badge. I've very rarely seen one with the badge still on it. They all fall off. I thought it was a thing where they didn't put the badge on the steering wheels until someone said no, they all had them from the factory, but the badges fall off. Oh, sorry, Andy. Think your Rover looks brilliant. Thanks, Andy. I really appreciate that. It's coming up good. It's coming up far better than what it was before. What I ever planned. I was thinking that this was going to be a rough and ready daily driver car that I'm not going to care about. And quite frankly, what's happened is I've ended up buying another gem of a car. Quite frankly, it's better than the Focus underneath. They're just as good in a different way. If I wanted to do one thing differently on the Mark 1, is I wouldn't have used wax oil. I'd have used Dynax. But with the Mark 1, because it's already wax oiled and most of it is embedded into the car, it's greasy as hell, which is good. And most of the car, I mean, literally we're getting flakes of rust around the sides of the subframe at the front, and the rear in quarter. It's always the bits where, when I went back to bare metal last time, it's always the intricate pieces on the inside where the arms go in. You can't get your drill in there easily enough. Those are the areas that are starting to rust and flake off a little bit. So I'm open to getting with the wire brush, get it back to bare metal, rust killer, zinc primer, stone chip, Dynax, and put more Dynax on the underside where I can. That's what I'm going to be focusing on very soon, in a couple of weeks' time. So my attention has been on Beatrix the last 6 months. I've took me off the ball with the focus, but not to a point where things have deteriorated. It's just I haven't got round to doing it. So back to basics. It will have an oil change. It will have the underbody looked at in the way I've said, with extra Dynax, and just to go over the areas that are a bit flaky. Apart from that, I'm probably going to discover that there really isn't nothing to do, because I did such a good job first time round that I very rarely have to do it again. And that is my top tip. If you're going to do these jobs, just take extra time. Take another day, a few days, maybe a few more weeks. Make the sacrifice. Take your time to do it properly, because you're just going to be doing it again in 6 months. If you're missing bits of rust and cutting corners, I can guarantee whatever paint you're putting onto that car, if there's surface rust that has not been treated or taken back to bare metal, it'll just flake off again in 6 months. Mad Top, my baby is third from the top tax band and is due beginning of May, so missed that by a month. Ooh, just about you. That's lucky, that is. With my focus, I'm going to be doing it on a monthly basis now. For April, both cars will be taxed. Obviously, the Rover's going to be taxed all the time because it's the daily, and it's going to be a daily. I get a great degree of confidence in the Rover. I really do. Not because of the work I've done, but it just gives me confidence. It starts on the button, literally the flick of the key, and it turns on. Not even the Focus does that. And I do believe there is a massive difference between the Ford ECU system and the MEMS Rover software. There's something that the Focus has to crank for a few seconds more, no matter how well it's looked after. It has to, even on a cold start, it has to give a good solid few ugga-duggers, and then it starts. You will not get a Mark 1 that literally flick the key and it's on. That's what the Rover's like. Literally flick it. You just have to flick the key and turn it back and it's on. Literally one rotation of the engine, it turns on. And I've not known a car like that. It just gives me confidence. It's jerky. It's got that miniature misfire, as I've explained before in my other video the other day. My ranting video. Well, it wasn't a rant video, but it's got this miniature misfire that it only manifests at idle or low speed. After we get going, the gearbox takes us through its paces and it just whizzes down the road. Mr. Ben, having a garage in a decent area is a rare thing. Mine is in a good spot too. Fortunately. That's good. I mean, to be fair, if it's 7 miles away but it's in a good spot and you're happy with it and you can sleep soundly in bed knowing that 7 miles away your car is as safe as what it could be. That's the main thing. I would argue that the area I live in, it's not exactly well known for not having car theft. I think I do live in an area of high car theft, unfortunately. Birmingham is a dreadful area for car thefts, car crimes in general. So car theft is rife, but it's better in a garage and out of sight than rather exposed. So I feel good that it's away from prying eyes. Adam, my Focus 1.6 LX manual was £220 when taxed. When I bought mine in November, most likely will be close to 250. Yeah, it will be about 250. I think it's getting to the point where, to be fair, so I can't remember who made the comment, but somebody made a fantastic comment on one of my videos saying that if you had the only people that are going to be persecuted in terms of Mark 1 Focuses and the road tax, If you have an ST170, a 2 litre, or an automatic, if any of those three cars are registered in the emissions tax system after 2001, you're more worse off than if you had one of those three cars. Well, you can't get an ST170 before 2001, but if you had a 2 litre or an automatic version before 2001, where it was taxed on the engine size, you'd be better off. So if my 1.6 automatic was a 2000 registration, I'd be better off. I'm paying more tax through the emissions side of things since 2001. That's where you're persecuted. But for everyone else, including yourself, you're better off under the emissions tax band, not the engine tax band before. So it's not everybody. Some people win, some people lose. But you're in terms of tax, you're in a good place for the car you've got. Mr. Ben, my car certainly is immobilised, but I might message you after some ideas. Yeah, I will give you some ideas. Don't worry. We'll cross. You can tell me a few things because different people have different ways of doing it. I mean, I can say this now because it's a common thing. My Rover P6, it's an old car, distributor, rotor arm. What did people do during World War II? You remove the rotor arm. In fact, if you didn't immobilise a vehicle by removing the rotor arm, it was actually an offence to do so. Specifically, if you were in the army, you had to immobilise your vehicle. If you didn't, you were court-martialed, 100%. And I took that idea, and I had every confidence that by lifting the bonnet, lifting the cap, taking the rotor on, putting the cap back on, nobody'd steal it. Even at supermarkets, you'd have to have a rotor arm. The rotor arm to actually steal the car. And who's going to be walking around with a rotor arm that would fit a Rover P6? No one. But that's the main way of immobilising a classic car. But you can fit a kill switch to a classic car as well. You'd have to fiddle around with the ignition wiring and all that and put it under the dashboard, things like that. There's all sorts of stuff you can do. You can put a kill switch on the battery. I don't like them. I had a kill switch put on the battery. The negative, you put it on the negative terminal. I actually had an issue with my P6 where I put this battery kill system on, and I smelled burning when I was driving the car once. I thought, this is weird. I pulled over because it could be anything, and it was coming from the back of the car again. I thought, oh God, the battery's not gone again. Because I had a problem ages ago where the alternator regulator packed in. It was throwing 40 volts at that battery, and the battery was burning bloody acid because it was obviously overheating. But I thought, oh, it's not burning the battery again. It's a brand new alternator. Nah, that battery kill switch was starting to melt. I'm surprised the car didn't actually cut out because that's the only connection to the car. They're Chinese made and not all of them are good. And I did stop to point this out to a couple of owners on the P6 stand who fitted similar devices. They're like taps. They're like screw-in taps that you can kill the power to. And I said, look, the guy I spoke to, he said he'd had his on the car for years, no problems. And I said, you've got a good one then. Just to be aware that mine caused that issue. But mine was only about a month old, so clearly it was a dodgy one. If you've had yours on the car for a few years and it hasn't no issues, then it's a good one. They're all made to stupid standards, these Chinese things. They're not all made to the same standards at all. Good points on the garage Defender. I can imagine attracting attention. This is what I was thinking. I mean, the garage next door's got one, but that's a double garage and that's got a classic in it. And I believe it was broken into many years ago, which is why there's a Defender outside of it. But arguably the damage is done now. I just think it's been broken into. Don't attract more attention by putting a Defender outside of it. I think you if somebody wants to get in, they want to get in. If they can get into my garage, that's fine, but they can't take the car. They will not take the car because there are so many ways that car will not move. It is untrue. A pain in the ass, but it makes me very relaxed knowing that. Darren, XR3i Cabby now for a good and 6 to 8. That sounds about right. 6,000 to 8,000 for a Cabby. Yeah, that sounds about right. I was thinking around 10, but I didn't want to say anything because I don't want to. As I say, my experience is not with Escorts. But a Mark 4, a Mark 3 or Mark 4 Escort, yeah, they're good money now. Wish I'd have kept my old tin top Mark 3 and Mark 4 Express now. I think most people do. But you know what? Did you have good memories about it, Dan? Because do you know what? The memories are everything, aren't they? Yeah. We've all got regrets, but the main thing is the memories and the enjoyment that you get from these things. Adam, which is why I can't get rid of my Mark 1. There's too many memories with it. Of all the places I've been and the number of girlfriends I've had in the car. Not in that way, but the point is I've had several relationships since I've owned the car. I shouldn't have said that now. I shouldn't have said that. That sounded very wrong. Adam, yeah, flip out key. Many times had to use the duct tape to keep together with the key ring. Oh God, they're rubbish, aren't they? They're not flip. The thing is, they don't become flip out keys because the flip out doesn't work. You push it in, and then the spring doesn't keep it in. It just flicks back out. It's a normal key, so you might as well not have a flip out key. Yeah, Focus key still has the badge. Not sure where you can get them. I'll have a look now. You've actually reminded me, Adam, because I've been missing mine for ages, and I just think it looks so nice with it, but. Maybe it's because I probably need to butcher a case. The problem is with a Mark 1 key, they split into 3 pieces. You got the key blade, you got the front bit where the buttons are. Now this bit, I'm afraid, is not interchangeable. This bit contains the electronic module. Now unfortunately, I've got to be careful because the car's just out there. I might unlock it accidentally, but my unlock button is fine. It's got that click to it. The unlock button, it feels like it's collapsed a little bit. It's not, obviously there's no holes. These keys are really well made. The Rover one, if you saw the first video I did, all this had holes in it. These wear out a lot, but the Ford ones don't necessarily wear out. They just collapse. And even though it still works, see, there's no feeling of it clicking. I just know that the car's responding because I can hear it locking or with the boot open button as well. But it's mainly the unlock. That one feels a bit worn. But the module is on that side. So you can't change that side without changing the electronic module, and that's a lot of programming, etc. But the back side, and this is where I've got this idea, if I get another key ring with the badge on it, this is the back side. Basically, this is the bit the battery goes on. This is not connected to the button side, the electronic side, the chip side. The chip is in this side, by the way. All the electronic gizmos, and I believe the chip is actually the immobilizer chip is actually stuck on this side. I think if I can actually get this out, but I'm pretty sure that this is the way it is. I can't get it out now. I need a screwdriver. But basically, I could actually get a second-hand key with the badge and swap the back bit. So, might be an idea. If I can't get the badge, I'd have to go looking for that. Frank, hello, sir. Welcome to the channel. A new face. I've got a Focus 2002 Mark 1 TDCi. 115 brake horsepower, 5-door silver, 5-spoke alloy wheels in good condition, a classic. A Mark 1 is better than a Mark 2, that's for certain. I'm not going to argue, it is a better car, much better car in terms of driving. I think a Mark 2 feels a bit more heavy, a bit more hunkered down, but as someone who has actually driven a Mark II now, recently I've driven my mate's Mark II. It's a Zetec S. It's a 59 plate Zetec S Mark II. The engine mountings are much more superior. There is less cabin vibration from the engine, so they improve that. The pickup is better. It's a lot more firmer, pointy, firmer, probably just as comfortable. I think they did a really good job with the Mark II, but the Mark 1 feels like The Mark 1 feels like a fun go-kart. The Mark 2 feels like an adult version of a go-kart, much more less fun. But TDCI, nice. They're very rare now, the diesels, very rare indeed. They only represent, particularly in the UK here, I don't know where you're based, if you're based over here, but in the UK we have pretty much 5% of the models are diesels, and that is such a low number, it's untrue. I just hope that I hope there's a number of people that preserve them. Just one. The TDIs are nice as well, and I hope one or two of them get preserved. Madtop, type in this eBay, Andy. New remote key fob badge emblem for in blue. Thank you, sir. Right, I certainly will. I will do that later. And actually, I'm going to have to do it now, because if I copy what you've just put. So I'm going to go into eBay. Let's have a look. I'll continue the live stream. 18 by 7 millimeters. Come on. Oh, it hasn't typed it out. No. Right, so if I Ford that's emblem. I do apologise. I am going to continue this. Drew, I'm just coming to your comment in a second. I've seen it. Oh, fantastic! £4. Thank you, Madtop. That is so good. Right, that's me sorted. I've got 2 of them. Oh, that's epic. Perfect. Right, that's a missing piece of my car that I've now found. Knowledge is everything, and this is what it's all about. Right, that's another £4 out my bank account. I say that, it's just adding up. Drew Dastardly, best immobiliser, pull the fuel pump fuse. If it's stolen, they will get a few yards and then break down right in front of the open road outside the garages. I've got to be honest with you, I've done that numerous of times. It is a fantastic way of immobilising your car, and now I've just advertised how I immobilise my car. The truth is I don't always do that, but it is an option I have used in the past. Whether I do it now, you can make your own mind up about that, but it is a way I would advise you to immobilise your car cheaply. Absolutely. I've got to be honest with you, I think on a Mark 1 Focus, and I've proved this a few times with when I did the changing the injection rail, that one episode. I started the car perfectly fine, moved it backwards just to get it in right position for the camera, and then I went under the bonnet to pull the fuse, and then I started it again, or tried to start it, and it wouldn't start. So it just proves that actually they won't even start. I think, to be honest with you, Drew, I think if you did that, they wouldn't even get out the garage. They'd probably, well, obviously they've broken into your garage, so the garage door's open. They'd probably start it, reverse it very, very, very quickly to make a quick getaway, and then stall right outside the garage in full view of all the neighbours that are overlooking my garage in my case. One of them has got my mobile number. They're all old people that live by the garages, and one of them has my mobile number. He has a car in one of the garages too. We've exchanged numbers, so if there is a problem, he will text me. So he's a retired guy. He's always in. Fantastic. I can't complain about that. That's the best form of defence, that is, actually. I don't know what I'd do if I'm at work, though. That'd be a bit of a problem. Frank, cheers, mobility. No problems. Spot on. I'm on the continent. Where are you based on the continent, sir? I'd just like to get a picture of where everybody is. I know I've got quite a few subscribers in Europe that watch my channel. I've got to do something on European focuses, because that's where my knowledge is a bit hazy. It's not like I'm trying to be deliberately narrow-minded, as sometimes we English can be. But no, we're not. Ignore Brexit. That was a mistake. That was a very stupid mistake. So yeah, where are you in the continent? I'm not going to guess from your name actually, because I could get it wrong badly. Mad Top, a pleasure, sir. Thank you very much. Seriously, that's perfect. And I shall show my badge to you in the next Focus Mark 1 video, 100% with pride. Drew, sorry mate, that's cat's out the bag now. Oh, well, I have lots of other ways. That's just one option that I have. As I say, that is one option I've used in the past, but it's not really an option that I've used too much. I have other ways, but I'm afraid one of them you'll never guess, because if I did that, then I'll basically be giving you the keys to my car, essentially, if you knew where it was kept. But yeah, it's just one of those. But if you, as I say, if people want to message me privately about vehicle immobilizing and ideas that I might have, I'll give you a list of 10 ideas. Obviously one or two of them might be ones that I do or may not be doing. My God, I've got to the end of the thread and we're 1 hour and 15 minutes in. It's ridiculous. So we have 8 people viewing this and 44 views in total. Unbelievable. This is, I'll tell you what, this is far more advanced than my first few live streams. And you know, I'm seeing a load of new names and a load of old ones. I'm really pleased of where the channel is going. For those of you who are relatively new to the channel, I only started out about 12 months ago. I had previously done Rover P6 videos before. There are only 2 of them. And there is a Mark 1, there was a video I did, it's called Water Pump Rant. It was the first video I did on my Mark 1. And it is me basically having a 30-second moan. It was actually a video I made to send to my best mate who wasn't in Birmingham at the time, because the garage had actually done a water pump and timing belt change a couple of years previous, who I still used at that point, only to find out they gummed up the water pump. It was just gummed up with silicone. It was absolutely everywhere. There's no need for silicone. If the water pump is leaking around the gasket area, it's failed. The pump should not leak from that area. There should be enough pressure for it to not leak around. It's only a paper gasket. You don't need to put anything on it. Maybe a dab of Hylamar if you want to, but not silicone. They literally put it everywhere. And in that video, I still had the white ST170 alloys, the white strip. It's the only video that I actually kept. Everything else was, I did make a few videos, but it was only small. Mad Top. Yeah, so the channel's only been going 12 months, pretty much since March the 27th last year. I went to the NEC Classic Restoration Show, walked away from it and thought, do you know what? I would love to be a YouTuber and start my own channel, because I have so many skills I would like to offer, and I don't want recognition. I want to be able to grow a community, because I believe Mark 1s last year were not really appreciated for what they are. So I kind of wanted to go down that route and start a blog. Just start low and then work your way up. And I can't believe how far I've got. So next 12 months is going to be really interesting. Mad Top, when I worked on recovery, I picked up a stolen recovered Fiesta that was took with the key. Excuse me. It only got as far as what fuel was in the fuel line. Oh my gosh. That must have been low on fuel then. Oh no, because the fuel pump fuse had been taken out. Is that why? Well, I assume that's what you're meaning. I can imagine the amount of fuel that is basically in the line that goes to the engine. It run out in seconds. The amount of pressure that these systems work off, I couldn't imagine it being less than that. It would just run on air very quickly. And that's why I say, I think it wouldn't even reach the road where my garages are. It wouldn't even reach outside the garage before it cuts out. Especially if it's a cold engine, it's going to be sucking the fuel when it starts on cold. So no chance, no chance. Mad Top, that may still be the case, to be honest. Yeah, it could be. Fiesta was taken without the key, not with the key. Yeah, was it? Is this a newer Fiesta? Is this a Fiesta Mark 6? Because they seem exceptionally easy to steal without any keys. Hot wiring them, I think, is pretty easy. Mr. Ben, I remember that water pump video. What a mess that silicon was. It was awful. It was everywhere. And that video, the reason I kept that video up, I wasn't impressed with it. It was just a narrow vision. It's like a 16:4 video. It wasn't a full screen video at all. And I never intended. I didn't think I was going to start a YouTube channel at that point. This was October 2019. No, it was 2020. No, October 2020, I believe. I literally, that was the moment where I thought, I'm sick of this. There have been a few jobs done by that garage that I trusted, and they did some good work for me in the past, but they were expensive, and I thought I could do better than this. It's just, I know better now. I've learned from other people. I can do better than this, and that's where it started. And that's why I've kept that video up, because that's where the thought process of basically I've just got to do it myself. More and more Mark 1 focuses have been appearing on Facebook group. I'm on called Cars You Don't See Anymore. I've not heard of that. Okay, I'll have a look at that. Both good and bad that it's getting recognised, but sad numbers have gone down a bit. Yeah. In what sense bad? I mean, it's really bad that the numbers have gone down. Is it too late? What I'm doing is essentially like the tip of the iceberg. I can't promise, but when I mentioned at the end of the NEC video, if you did watch part 4, which you would have, I know you did, Adam, my epiphany that I had when I was around the fast forward stands, and I really do believe in this. I want to have a stand at the NEC Practical Classic Show next March with 3 or 4 Ford Focuses on the stand. Normal, ordinary Mark 1 Focuses that are in preservation or in certain levels of preservation. I would like to start a group. I don't necessarily think it will be a Facebook group, because that's been done already. There are 2 or 3 very strong groups, and there's plenty of info on there. But I would like to channel a group through this channel. So this channel is Fords and Rovers, but I will try and get a balance between both. But the Ford side of things will be a channel through what I would say a Mark 1 community for preserving Mark 1 Focuses. I did have a little think about what I would call such a group, because I can't really call it the Ford Focus Owners Group or Mark 1 Owners Group. That's been taken already, and I don't really want any legal issues over that, because I know what people are like with names and all that. But I might start something like a Ford Focus Mark 1 Preservation Group, and that will sum up exactly what I want to achieve. Mark 1s that are being preserved as they are, subtle modifications, that sort of thing. And I know that I have 4 or 5 people that would stand with me and start a group who've got their own Mark 1s. So I want to achieve something, but I need to meet people, and this is where I need to meet a lot of you guys at meets and get some sense of perspective out there, instead of sitting in front of a screen doing videos on my driveway. There's no sense of perspective there. So that's why I enjoyed the NEC so much. Because I connected with people. But Cars You Don't See Anymore, I'm going to have a look into that now. There seems to be more, with Mark 1 Focuses, there seems to be more interest in Europe, because they are very expensive, and therefore they are very rare and looked after more. Whereas in the UK, they're stupidly cheap. And that's because they're still not rare enough yet. I don't know how to take that, because I don't really want them to become too rare, but ideally you want the values to go up a bit. Mad Top, no, this was about 20 years back. Oh, so that, yeah, well, they were, Fiesta Mark 4s then. They're quite easy to steal. I think they use the same key as a Mark 1 with the indent. I'm pretty sure about that. I'm not. Do you know? I'm thinking now. I need to do some research on this. I mean, I will find it out. What was the first Ford to use that type of key instead of a keyblade? Was it a Mark 1 Mondeo by any chance? I'd like to know when the switchover was for that key. Mr. Ben, if a garage does bodges like that, they'd definitely be better at doing it yourself. Yeah, I don't know whether the garage considered it a bodge or just whether they were trying to be thorough and cover all bases. Because I get the impression that a lot of garages do that now. They're just trying to cover their own backs with jobs. The rocker cover gasket, I had to redo all that when I did the timing belt. And guess what I found? Well, they hadn't changed the gasket. Yeah, that's what they said on the receipt. They put instant gasket on it. Silicon instant gasket everywhere. Look at it. It didn't go into any of the oil pathways. Oh, it was horrible. I literally peeled it and it literally came off in one big slab. It looked like a rocker cover gasket, but it was silicon. Nasty. In fact, on a lot of Mark 1s, I think that's the case. I think a lot of garages do that. They tell you they're paying for a new gasket for 20 quid and put basically instant gasket on it for which will cost them about £1 in instant gasket and save a lot of money, make a lot of money. But you won't know that because it's not leaking. So customers happy and we've made some money. Wrong. Drew, was it a Mark 3 Fiesta? Mine was robbed all the time. No, Pat's, that was on the Mark 4 and Mark 1 Focus. Yeah, there was no passive passive anti. Oh, I can't remember what the Pats is called now. No, there wasn't on a Mark 3. Mark 4s haven't though. Yeah. Mad Top, to be honest, I can't remember, but it was around that time. Okay, sounds like it. Mr. Ben, I think the Mark 3 Escort, Mark 2 Orion period for the key tape. Oh, really? That sounds really early. I didn't think. No, I thought it was later than that. That sounds. I think in the 80s they were still using shed keys like that one I've just shown you. Yeah, I don't. Mad Top. Sorry guys, my wife has just got back from work, so I'm off. A very good night to you all. You take care, Mad Top. Thank you so much for that link. I will speak to you soon, sir. Really, thank you for joining us. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. No, I'm pretty sure it was later than that, Ben. Far later than that. I'm pretty sure. I'm thinking Mark 1 Mondeos because the Mark 1 Mondeo was a huge change for Ford. The Mark 1 Mondeo started the direction change that they needed, which culminated in the Mark 1 eventually. The Mark 1 was probably the pièce de résistance, as the French call it. It was the top. It was Ford at their absolute zenith from where they started with the Mondeo and basically changing the direction of the company style, the styling of the cars, everything. And I'm pretty sure the key change would have come at the same time. Somebody could correct me there, but I'm going to find out that for sure. Martin, I think the Sierra had it. I think the Sierra was the first one with the round security key, followed by the Granada Scorpio. It's possible because they were the high-end cars. Granada Scorpio sounds, yeah, it just sounds like they might have had a similar sort of system. I really would like a Mark III Granada Scorpio. Well, the Scorpio was the top spec. The Granada was the Granada. It was Mark III Granada, but the Scorpio was the top spec. Possible. Passive anti-theft system, stupid me. Thank you, Ben. Yeah, I thought it was that. I always noticed as like an anti-immobilizing system or something like that. It was anti-theft system. Martin, I am old enough to remember as I passed my test in one. Oh gosh, a Fiesta. A Sierra. Ooh, what model was that, Martin? they're really not really rare cars, Sierras now in ordinary form. This is again, I keep saying it. I see more Sierra Cosworths than normal Sierras, and I just think that's so sad that nobody valued them enough. I mean, I think the estates look great. I think the estates are so practical. Adam, I know my Mark 1 Ford KA had the same key as my Mark 1. Yeah, I'd imagine that would have the same key because it's around the same age. Mr. Ben, my brother had a Scorpio Cosworth. The bug-eye version, the later the bug-eye version for years, quite a car. Now, is that the 24 valve engine? I believe that engine is a development of the old Cologne V6. I'm sure it was a development of the Ford Cologne engine. I'm pretty sure that's right if I'm thinking that way. But the Cosworth, it was a Cosworth head. Yeah, I've seen one of the funeral directors off the high street near me has got one. They've still got it was a bug-eye. It's a bug-eye Scorpio, and it's the Cosworth, 24 valve, and it's a hearse. Hearse. What a way to go! I would no, I'm not going in that. Absolutely not. I'll be no. Knowing my luck, if I did go before my parents, God help me, that would be the funeral car they would select because they think, oh, Andy likes Fords, and this is nice. Because my parents don't know much about cars, so they would absolutely choose a Scorpio hearse, knowing my luck. Drew, the round key is a Ford tib. The locking picking lawyer has videos on how easy it is to defeat. It will not defeat the PATs, though that uses a chip in the key. Ah, I see. I'll have to have a look at that more closely then. I didn't know that. The chip is very easy to break. I did a video on Ford Focus keys. I might go over it again, because apparently a few people disliked that video, but I don't know why. Was it because the content wasn't good, or the backlighting wasn't very good, or is it something I said that was incorrect? I don't think what I said was, everything I said in that video was slap bang on correct. You can swap the key blade and get a new one cut very easily, but you have to, if you want to get a new key with the actual the circuit board in there and a new chip, you would have to have the chip coded to the car. You can code the key to the central locking by just doing the unlock several times procedure with the key in the lock, etc. I think you just put the key in the ignition and then you press it a couple of times and then you hear a beep and then press any button, bang, and then it links to the GM module and that's done. But it will be the immobilizer chip that needs linking to the car's chip, because there's a chip near the ignition barrel. What a lot of people do with ignition issues, is they take the chip out of the fob and then gaffer tape it right to the very close to the ignition barrel underneath the steering column, and then all you have to do is basically insert the key and off you go, because it's always immobilized because the chips are always close together. Sounds a bit dodgy to me, that. It was a 1.6 GL in gold. Now the GL would have been middle of the spec if I'm right in thinking. Gold. What an 80s colour that is. Oh my god. On a Y plate. Oh, it's a Y reg. Oh god. Sorry, you know what? When I'm saying about 1983 Y regs, I just keep thinking about Austin Ambassadors. I don't know why, but there was a song by John Shuttleworth about Y reg ambassadors. If you've ever heard of that, you'll know what I'm talking about. Mr. Ben 747. Yes, it was a 24 valve. Thank you very much, sir. The clone was not the V12. Not sure what similarities there are, to be honest. It was a hearse. Oh yeah, and it was the 24 valve version. Meant to say the clone is the straight 6. No, it was the V6. The Cologne was the V6. Cosworth with the V6, both 2.9 litre engines. No, no. The Cologne is the V6. The Cosworth, I didn't really look into this about, because I'm not interested in Scorpios. Trust me, they're nasty things. It's the car that Ford really got wrong. I don't know how they went from the Granada Mark III was a good car, decent styling, slap bang for its age, first mainstream car to offer ABS as standard, I believe, not as an option. So, and they were really advertising that when they first came out. I think it was 1986 that was, but they went wrong with the yeah, no, Scorpio just, yeah. So I had to look into what engine that is then, because I assumed it was just a development of the Cologne, the last version of the Cologne, just with more valves. Drew, the remote engine start kits made you take the key chip to the steering column, completely defeating Pats. Yeah, it's a weird one, that. A very weird one. Oh, an easy way to test your Pats is to remove the key blade from your remote, then try starting. Nothing will happen. Yeah, I've done that before. Yeah, I did do that once. In fact, I don't know why I was doing it, but I removed the keyblade for some reason years ago, and I just thought for some fun I'll just try and start, and it didn't. I had to put the remote straight to the key, the barrel, to get it close, and then it started. I'm having that issue with the 45, Martin. I don't know whether you can abbreviate on this a bit, but according to the manual, essentially I should be able to start the Rover with literally this key. These two are on the same key ring, right? So as soon as I put the ignition key in, and I'm getting the old typical MEMS beep 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 going on to tell me it's still armed, so I have to press the unlock key for the immobilizer to go off, and then I can start the car. Now surely the immobilizer should go off if I put that really close. That should be close enough to disarm the chip, because there's a chip in the barrel the same as the Ford, but it's not doing that. It's weird. I have to press the unlock button to immobilize it, but I'm sure according to the manual, if they're on the same key fob, that should bring it close enough to the chip in the column should to actually deimmobilize it. I shouldn't have to press the unlock button. So do you have the same issue? Adam, Ford has never revealed who designed the Bug-Eye Scorpio. Oh wow, that is surprising, because I bet you he just sheared and covered himself in, literally, I don't know why anybody thought it was worth, I don't know why they released it. I just thought, why would anybody think that was any good? I mean, the Ford Mondeo, good looking car. Scorpio, ugh, why? Why would they think that was any better? And to be fair, I think the Ford Scorpio was supposed to go for a higher market, but yeah, and they got rid of the Scorpio around 1998. I think it carried on to 98, around about that time. They got rid of it in good time because Ford were going places. They'd already bought the Mark IV Fiesta out, which was based on the Mark III, but it looked good. It looked a little bit more in keeping. It was an old car, but they made it look a bit better. And obviously they were drawing plans up for the Fiesta Mark V, which was going to mirror the Mark I Focus and the Mark III Mondeo respectively. And I think that those are three of the most reliable Ford cars of all at the time. I'm not a massive fan of Fiesta Mark Vs. I think the styling wasn't quite there for me, even though it followed the trend of the Mark III Mondeo and Mark I Focus. But I think those three cars in that trio are the cars that people most relate to Ford being reliable, fun to drive, and cheap. I don't think any cars have actually, I think after those three, it was downhill. The Mark IV Mondeo became heavier, more complicated. They are pretty reliable though, I give them that, and I still think they're more appealing than the Mark 5's just. The Mark 5 Mondeo and the Mark 3 Focus, they lost it then. They started to go way out, up to the point where we've got to now with Ford. As I say, that Capri, what are they thinking? As they've got some serious issues, Ford, at the moment. They literally want to kill Ford of Europe stone dead. Ford will only be known in America. Honestly, the kids of today, the kids of that have been born today, when they get to 40 years down the line, when they're grown adults, they'll be like, what is a Ford? I mean, literally, what is a Ford? Nobody will know what they are. It will be like Rover all over again. We're getting to a point where the only people that know what a Rover is have to be at least probably my age. In fact, most people my age look at them as just old men's cars. They don't relate to them as anything else because that's all they've ever seen them as. And that's a shame, because there will come a point where people don't know what they are because the company doesn't exist. And the same could happen to Ford if they keep going the same way. It's a real shame. Drew, the Scorpio front face designer, went on to work with Fiat and came up with the Multipla. Oh my God, you're joking. That explains a few things. That's a horrible car. With you've got two faces. You've got the lights down below, and then you've got these lights below the bottom of the windscreen. Oh God, and like a little mini scuttle. It's like you've got a lump, and then a bonnet, and then a lump, and then the windscreen. Oh God, that explains a lot. That's nice information. Thank you, Drew. That's really nice information. I did not know that. See, learn new things all the time. He didn't learn much, did he? But obviously Fiat were looking for something out of the box. They got that. There is a Fiat Multipla Owners Club, by the way. I will not share a field with any of them, because I'm pretty sure they are not very. I don't think they're entertaining people. Put it that way. Mr. Bennett, it feels like the golden age of Ford has gone. Rather sad. It went a long time ago. A long time ago. The problem is it's gone so slowly down the slippery path that people really haven't recognised it until the last few years at least. I think people have woken up and smelt the coffee with Ford now. They have joined the bandwagon of all manufacturers trying to sell bloated SUVs, and they're not really good at styling them. The truth is, SUVs, I don't like them, but some of them have been styled quite nicely for what they are. But Ford are not even bothering. It's like they can't be bothered. They are literally relying on the brand name of Ford. If they think that their reputation, their dealer network and their connections in the UK and in Europe are going to be the ones to get them through this stage, they are wrong. Consumers will turn away and have. If you look at Ford now, the Focus is off the top 10. It's gone off the cliff. The Fiesta is only just clinging on for dear life. They have been knocked right down, and it's been happening for some time, and I'm afraid the consumers are now showing their hand. People don't like Fords no more. People have up sticks elsewhere. I do believe that, and this is the problem I touched on in that one little bit of a rant I did last week. Ford are trying to become a luxury car manufacturer with a brand name that people can never ever, they can't relate to anything luxury. The most luxurious thing that Ford do is they stick chrome badges on the top models. I mean, the Vignale, the new spec they brought out 6-7 years ago, the Vignale, right? That is an appeal to the luxury top. Why would you buy a Ford Focus Vignale for the same price as a BMW 3 Series, a mid-spec 3 Series? How can you compare the two cars? You're going to go for the 3 Series? So very few of them are being sold, and they're trying to go down this route, and it's not working because Ford is too much of an everyday man brand, and it's what people love them for. And if they start changing the ethos, that's it. gone. Gone. I know manufacturers have tried to do that before, but they can't. They simply can't. Rover could not shake the old man's pipes and slippers clothing off. They should have done. They had enough potential in the company to build and design really, really good cars, but money and desirability and a lot of other things played their part there. It's April the 1st soon. Oh gosh, April Fool's Day. I might have to do, April Fool's Day, yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't really think about an April Fool's for my channel. I was supposed to, but then I realised that because I've put so many videos into my channel, well, the next week is fully booked. Every day there's a video coming out. The only day I had free was April the 1st, and that, well, basically I'm going to do a garage video. And I'd like to say it's an April Fool's, but blooming well isn't. But you never know. Anyway, the generic thing is for me to announce that I've bought a new car, and I haven't bought a new car. That's what most YouTubers do. And to be fair, some of the April Fool's pranks have been pretty good up to now. Mr. Ben, I don't like the way Ford is killing their lineup. Mondeo, Fiesta. Fiestas have been the best sellers for years. Why stop making them? I don't know. I don't know. Vauxhall, General Motors, have gone the way of the Vauxhall Corsa E. So they've basically thought, right, we're going the way of electric, okay? This is the way forward. How can we make our customers make the transition from petrol to electric? We take one of our most popular models, the Corsa, convert it into electric. So it's a what we call a first generation electric car. So what we mean is a car that was a petrol or diesel. It was designed to house a combustion engine, but has been converted so it can run on an electric motor and batteries. The second generation is pure electric vehicles that were designed electric from the outset. That's what we're seeing from a lot of companies now, but GM have gone for a first gen model, and they are actually having some real good success with the Vauxhall Corsa E. It is selling really well, and it is attracting people into the electric car world, but introduce them with a name that I'm not a fan of the Corsa, but they're doing it in the right way. Why did Ford not think, look, the Focus might be too big a model this time, so we're going to ditch that, but let's keep the Fiesta. Let's keep the car that we've had since 1977, a fantastic brand in its own. And why don't we just take the existing model? You know, okay, I'm not a fan of the Mark 7, okay? I'm not a fan of it, but let's take that model and convert that to an electric car with batteries under the floor and you name it. Okay, let me just check my phone. Sorry, I've got it on charge. Yeah, it's getting a bit hot. My battery's getting a bit hot at the moment, so I've left it on charge. Why don't you do that? Why don't you just take a current car and do what Vauxhall have done? And then a Ford Fiesta Mark 8 electric would be brilliant. It would sell like hot cakes because people are not really willing to move to electric. Some people are scared about the range and everything. There's still a lot of questions to be asked about that. But why don't you take what is a reliable brand that people trust and make it what it is? Okay, they've lost a bit of reliability over the years. I think the EcoBoost engines are rubbish. I think there's a lot more issues on the newer Fords than the older ones. I think the current Focus and Fiesta are dreadful in terms of some of the problems they've had. In fact, they might have gone backwards a bit. Some of the problems they had in the 90s with build quality, well, they're kind of having it now. Cheap, nasty interiors, dodgy electrics, the lot. But that doesn't matter. People would still buy them. So, I don't get it. Let's have a look. Drew, Ford USA is all about F-150s. Yeah, it is. They've done this. I think the Mustang is big over there as well. The Ford Explorer is coming to Europe, and I mentioned about this before. Again, why? We don't need an American car. I'm sorry, but to all that, I'm sorry if there's any American viewers who are going to watch this, but in Europe we have no idea what a Ford Explorer is. We don't know about the brand. It's like, you know, us giving you the Fiesta. I mean, do you know what a Fiesta is? It's not that well known over there. I don't think it's been sold over there for a long time. I might be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure it's not very well known over there. It's the same. It's the same equivalent. Ford Explorers are quite popular. Have been very popular in the USA for many years. But the Ford F-150 is it's all pickups. Ford Rangers as well have done well over there. Ford Rangers are not known over here as well, but I've heard good things about them, to be honest with you. They're quite robust things. And Mr. Ben, looking forward to seeing the garage video. It's only a small video, but it's just showing you what I've been doing recently. And the landlord's given me the go-ahead to do exactly what I want. I rent the garage from him, and he's just, you know, just make it your own. And I've bought the garage sign from the NEC that you may have seen at the end of the video. I thought, do you know what, I've got to do it. I said I wasn't going to be lured into buying anything, but I saw this one sign and I thought, yeah, go for it. It was £20. Go for it. It was a big. It's alley. It's all alley, so it's light, and it can be screwed in quite easily. I did see some really beautiful things there. Like, you know, I always want a garage with a big Ford dealership sign, like those dealership badges that you get outside the dealership. And I just fancy putting them on. The ones that are backlit, they've got a backlight, so you can wire it in. And I just think that would be so cool. And I did see a Rover one with the late Rover badge on it, the correct one for my Rover, a huge one. It was like 6'3", probably the size of me. I was thinking, oh, well, I'm not going to take that home without a van. And that was backlit, and I believe that may have been the one outside Qgate. He did say there was a number of them they had, but they had about 5 of them, and they also, I think he sells them for £300. But there was 5 of them. 2 of them were used on the Qgate. One of them fell off and smashed, so the other one got used. So that was the second one. I think that was the one he was selling. There were 3 others that were unused. So he has a couple more of them, and I don't know how he must have worked at Rover to get hold of them. But yeah, the sort of stuff that people sell is unbelievable. But I've just got some garage signs to go over the place, and I've been putting a lot of my tool racks in. I have a system where I've wired in some garage lights, and I'm sure Dave will rate my electric installation going forward, being a Sparky himself. But I've basically wired in 3 bayonet connecting bulb fittings that you'd find in a house. I was going to go for a strip light, but I decided against that because I've got the bulbs anyway. With 3 12-watt LED bulbs, and that is wired into a power inverter, a 12-volt power inverter you get in camper vans. And ideally, it's only a small one, and it's a modified sine wave. It's not pure sine wave, and I think most of you who are into camping understand that pure sine wave is better. It is for sensitive pieces of equipment, and I think LED bulbs are kind of on the cusp of LED of sensitivity. They may not be as bright as what maybe they would be under mains electricity, for instance, but it will do for my application. And modified sine wave is cheap, and this one was a 500 watt. Oh, sorry, did we cut off? No, my phone cut off. Yep, reconnecting. Yep, I was saying sorry about that if that cut off. Yeah, so we've got the power inverter, and that's going to be hooked up to a battery that came today. It is a deep cycle leisure battery. You cannot use a 12-volt normal car battery because the lead plates are too thin, and the idea of a deep cycle battery is it will basically discharge by 90% before it really needs charging, whereas a car battery can only go down about 10 or 20% until it becomes useless. So I've bought one. It's a lead acid one. I wanted a lithium ion one because they weigh nothing, but they're so expensive. I really do think, I hope that battery technology gets better for modern classic cars, because at the moment we're still using 12-volt lead acid batteries that have been around since millennia. And I just think lithium ion is in demand, and I do believe that all the lithium ion is going into electric cars at the moment, which is why lithium ion 12-volt batteries are still so expensive. I think it will be a good few years before 12-volt lithium ion batteries at 60 amp hours, which is usually you can get some cars that use 40 amp hours, much less. The Rover uses 45 amp hours apparently. But you can get much smaller batteries, much lighter batteries, that produce way more power than the original batteries with lithium ion. So the potential for lithium ion is fantastic for classic cars and modern classics. Although it would look stupid, because you're going to have this gigantic battery tray that used to house a 60 amp hour battery, but because lithium ion is so good, it can be probably half the size. It will only take up a little bit of the battery tray, so they'll look a bit silly. So I don't know how that's going to work, but yeah, that's the way I wanted to hook it up. And yeah, we'll see if I electrocute myself tomorrow, but hopefully not. But that will be coming. The video I've done for tomorrow is just the setting up, and tomorrow I'm going to tidy up and hook the battery up, and I'll have some electricity. The other option that the landlord has given me is to put a solar panel in the roof to charge the battery. Now, my idea at the moment is to not leave the battery in the garage, because I don't really want the feeling of a live battery in the garage. I want it removed. So I will bring the battery, put the battery in the back of the other car, or just put it in my bag, bring it back up to the house and hook it to my smart charger. And then when I go down again, take the battery down, put it on the shelf, put the inverter on, lights come on. That's how it's going to be. Lights is a good idea. And yeah, honestly, Ben, it's really cheap. If you understand how to wire a light fitting, all you need is some bayonet light fittings, bayonet light bulbs, 2 core cables. If your bayonet fittings are plastic, like you get in a normal household fitting, it's a 2 core cable. You just need an earth and a neutral, a live and a neutral, not an earth. That's a 3 core. 2 core 0.75 millimeter cable. If you're using LED bulbs, probably go for 1 millimeter to be safe. If you've got enough, I had to do a calculation on amperage. Dave will know a bit more than that from me, but I did a calculation based on what wattage the bulbs are going to consume, the amperage they're going to consume, which is about 3 amps, and then worked out what size of leisure battery I needed, which was it's a 50 amp hour 12-volt leisure battery. So not a huge one, but one that will be enough to power the lights for at least 12 hours and a radio without needing to be recharged. Ideally, it's a bit too big, but I paid about 40 quid for it, which is quite cheap. Adam, must be off now. Enjoyed the live stream that I've seen. Many fans, keep up the great work. Thank you so much for joining us, Adam. I'm going to stop the live stream soon now, but thank you very much for joining us, sir. Please take care, and I will speak to you soon. Yeah, it's very doable. It's very doable. You just need to do a few calculations based on your needs. I mean, I've calculated what I would need in terms of a battery size, how much power is going to be consumed by the lights. So, for instance, I don't know. I'm going to get boring here. 12 watts times by 3. You've got 36 watts going through 3 LED lights. That's 36 watts per hour. Now, with a 12-volt battery, it's not like 240 volts. So it has to come down quite a bit. But a 50 amp hour battery is enough to power those lights for at least 12 hours. But that's on the lights. If I was to stick a radio into the extension cable, which the lights are plugged into via the inverter, that would mean that I would have the lights on for less long. Obviously, it would be less long. So maybe 6 hours. So you've got to consider that, but I'm not going to be in the lockup for 6 hours. Absolutely not. I'll be down there for a few hours at a time. And my idea is to do some live streams from my garage. Maybe I'll just be messing with the car, cleaning the car, and I'll do a live stream like this. And I'll have this phone hooked up onto the wall because we'll have enough light. It'll be nice because it's a man cave, and I like to do things instead of just being here. And secondly, we're coming into the summer. It's the hot weather. I would like to do more on that side of things. So absolutely. Oh goodness me, we've reached the end of the live stream. We have 6 people watching. It's blooming heck. I'm amazed at the amount of people that have joined in for this live stream. I've got quite a few people watching it. But yeah, that's the way things are. In terms of what I'm doing, as I say, there'll be quite a few videos coming up the next week. I have got to get back on top of the Focus because I am now going to start looking ahead towards the bodywork. Now, my painter is away on holiday, so I won't be able to talk to him for another week. But once he's back, we can set a date, possibly early June. So it'll be off the road for a few weeks in June. I knew it was going to be away in the summer, I just didn't know when, but it looks like it's going to go that way. But it will be ready for the Festival of the Unexceptional. The other thing I have to say is April. Obviously, I've got the Pride of Longbridge on the 15th. On the 16th, on the Sunday, I'm going to Whittle Transport Museum for a very small Rover group meet. It was one of those, you had to grab the tickets, and all the tickets went within an hour. They were free tickets, and I thought I'd grab them. And yeah, I didn't know whether the Rover would be finished for that time, but now it has been. Fantastic. Or I'd give the ticket away to somebody else. At the end of the month, on the 29th of April, only a few people know this, I will be going to the Motorist in Leeds. I think it's up in Leeds, Yorkshire way, Leeds way. The Motorist, which many of you are probably familiar with. So it's a great car meet-up, cafe, restaurant place. It's a great place to go. They are having a generic car meet day. Nothing specific, because I know they have specific car brands that go there every week. So they have a Rover day or British car day, a Saab week, and then a Ford week. Nothing specific on the 29th. It is just bring your car on Saturday. And I will be going in my Mark 1 Focus in the state it is in. So if you want to see the car in the state it's in before it gets resprayed on the most of the one side and the bonnet and a few other areas, then come and say hello. Come to the Motorist and say hello. Bring your Mark 1. If you've got a Mark 1, that's the date. If you can come. If you can't, don't worry about it. I'll be going to quite a few shows in and around the summer, obviously around the bodywork time. So it might get a bit quiet in terms of where I go in the summer, but I'm hoping that will pick up. As soon as I've had the bodywork done, that's it. That is my ticket to as many shows as possible. And then the Festival of the Unexceptional in July, I'm hoping that I can get 4 or 5 Mark 1 Focuses at least, as many as possible, and maybe we could meet up before we actually go into the show and actually line up together and actually park together instead of being scattered all around the place. Because I think the Festival of the Unexceptional is just one of these plonk the cars wherever. There's no order to it whatsoever, and it is a growing show. So if anybody wants to come closer to the date, I'm pretty sure we can arrange to meet up and have a little convoy in. That would be really nice. And I will definitely be focusing on more different examples and meeting more of you as well. Mr. Ben, thanks for the lot of... sorry, I've read the wrong one. Good idea to meet up and going together for the Festival of the Unexceptional. Absolutely. I presume you're going, Ben. I think you told me you were going. I know there's 2 other people that are going, so that's 4 of us already. So yeah, absolutely. As we get closer to the day, I'm hoping that we can all go. Maybe that might be the start of a full focus Mark 1 preservation group. I'll have to think about how that's going to look going forwards. But at the moment, oh, you're booked in. Good. That's good. I'm booked in as well. So that's all good. So yeah, I'm pretty certain that that's the way it's going to go for now. All good. Right. I am. Yeah, absolutely, Ben. Honestly, it's the only name I can come up with for now, because every other name has been taken, and I don't want to be copying everyone else. And I want to create. I mean, I could say Ford Focus Mark 1 Register, But what a register is usually something extremely niche. So, for instance, there is an ST170 estate register because there's so few of them. A register is something for a very, very rare model. So, if you have Dave, you've got a Ford Focus Silver. There's only 265 of them, and I can guarantee the amount of them are enthusiast hands are probably about 10 of them that are owned by enthusiasts. Let's say maybe not even that. So you could start your own Ford Focus Silver register group because it's so niche. But a preservation group sounds quite right because that's where I would like to go. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm aiming for. Anyway, I am going to end the live stream here. I am not going to wait another 6 weeks before doing my next live stream. I don't know what I will focus on, but I'll give a little bit more of a focus to the live stream. It's just been a general chat and a catch up with all the people that have been following me, and I really appreciate all the support. This channel, as I put at the end of the NEC video, I have 630 subscribers. I've got 100,000 views in the last 12 months, and the watch hours 5,000, something like that, which is just off the scale compared with what it was even at Christmas. So I'm just absolutely gobsmacked by the amount of support. I have been putting the channel out a bit. I have been promoting it on Facebook and going on the groups and just making people aware. So that's all good because I think more people should be aware about this channel. I am quite surprised about the amount of people who are not aware about the channel every time I actually promote a video, which is kind of highlights why I need to keep on promoting it through the Facebook groups, because people's lives are so busy they may just miss one of my postings, and it's very easy to miss a post. So I just keep doing what I'm doing. But anyway, thank you, Mr. Ben, and thank you for everyone who has joined in this live stream. As I say, it will not be 6 weeks before the next one. I'm going to, so it's the 31st of March. We're going into the 1st of April in less than 2 hours' time. Maybe in a couple of weeks' time. In fact, in 2 weeks' time, maybe, or maybe next week. I am off work for I am off work for the Easter. So maybe I can do another live stream next week, but with a bit more focus. In fact, maybe if I can get the garage sorted, we can have a live stream in the garage. Idea. Right, take care, guys. I will see you very soon. And now I've got to work out which button I'm pressing. Yeah, it's that one. Bye all.